Hi, this is Ray. Welcome to today's episode where we delve into a subject that may appear deceptively ordinary. Yet in reality, it encapsulates profound layers of human psychology, social organization, and urban development. Living in an apartment. At first glance, the topic seems rather straightforward. After all, an apartment is simply a residential unit stacked upon or beside others, coexisting within a larger building. However, if we peel back the surface, apartment living becomes far more than a mere architectural arrangement. It is a lifestyle, a philosophy, and in many cases a reflection of our collective adaptation to modernity. Consider for a moment the sheer scale of urban migration. The 21st century has witnessed a mass exodus from rural landscapes to bustling cities. As urban centers become magnets for ambition, employment, and education, housing inevitably shifts from sprawling detached houses to vertically designed space-efficient apartment complexes. This transformation raises a crucial question. Is apartment living a blessing, providing accessibility and community? Or is it a compromise, one that extracts a hidden toll on our sense of freedom and individuality? That precisely is the essence of our exploration today. We will investigate the allure of apartment living, examine the drawbacks with an unflinching eye, and ultimately reflect on how such a lifestyle affects not only our material comfort, but also our psychological well-being, social interactions, and even environmental footprint. So whether you are a tenant in a high-rise building gazing at the glittering skyline, or a house owner in a quiet suburb occasionally tempted by the convenience of a city flat, this episode will provide you with an enriched perspective. The allure of apartment living. Let us begin by examining why millions of individuals across the globe voluntarily choose apartments over houses. To do so, we must first recognize the practical dimension of this lifestyle. Perhaps the most persuasive argument in favor of apartment living is proximity. Apartments are often strategically located in metropolitan areas, mere minutes from workplaces, universities, shopping centers, and cultural institutions. For residents, this eliminates the tiresome ordeal of long commutes. One might argue that the greatest luxury in contemporary life is not gold or marble, but time. Living in an apartment close to one's daily destinations preserves this scarce resource, thereby enhancing quality of life. Another undeniable factor is financial feasibility. Purchasing or renting a detached house in a city center is for most people prohibitively expensive. Apartments, by contrast, present a relatively affordable option. They democratize access to urban living, allowing individuals from various socioeconomic backgrounds to share the same cityscape. Apartment buildings foster a unique sense of community. Neighbors encounter one another in elevators, corridors, or shared facilities such as gyms and swimming pools. While some might consider these interactions superficial, they often form the basis of valuable social networks. Particularly for expatriates or newcomers, living in an apartment provides a sense of belonging and opportunity to cultivate friendships. A further advantage lies in security and convenience. Apartment complexes frequently provide surveillance systems, doormen, and controlled access which collectively enhance safety. Plus, maintenance of common areas from gardens to corridors is often handled by building management. This spurs residents the burden of repairing leaking roofs or mowing vast lawns, responsibilities that typically fall upon house owners. From an environmental standpoint, apartments can be more sustainable. Concentrating populations vertically reduces urban sprawl, thereby preserving natural landscapes. Shared heating, insulation, and resource management also contribute to a smaller ecological footprint. Finally, one cannot ignore the lifestyle dimension. Many contemporary apartment complexes resemble microcosms of a city, equipped with gyms, cinemas, co-working spaces, and even rooftop gardens. They appeal particularly to young professionals who prioritize convenience and vibrancy over seclusion and space. Taken together, these advantages explain why apartment living has become not merely a necessity but, for some, a deliberate lifestyle choice. However, with all aspects of life, the coin has another side. And in our next segment, we will turn a critical eye toward the drawbacks. The hidden costs and drawbacks. While the appeal of apartment living is undeniable, it would be intellectually dishonest to ignore its limitations. Indeed, one could argue that behind the polished facade of modern apartment complexes lies a tapestry of challenges, compromises, and sometimes subtle inconveniences that gradually erode the romantic image of urban life. Let us now dissect these disadvantages with precision. The most conspicuous drawback of apartment living is the limited space. Whereas detached houses often offer sprawling living rooms, storage spaces, and private gardens, apartments confine residents to compact, sometimes claustrophobic quarters. To some, this scarcity of space encourages minimalism, a conscious effort to own fewer possessions and prioritize essentials. While that may sound philosophically appealing, minimalism imposed by necessity can feel less like a liberating lifestyle choice and more like a forced austerity. Imagine, for example, a family of 4 navigating daily life in a 2-bedroom apartment. Every square meter must be maximized. Bicycles may be wedged into narrow corridors, closets packed beyond capacity, and children's toys spilling into common living areas. Over time, such spatial restrictions may induce stress, strain family relations, and limit one's sense of personal freedom. Another significant drawback of apartment living is the omnipresent issue of noise. Walls may be thin, ceilings insufficiently insulated, and neighbors, however unintentionally, can become an unavoidable part of one's auditory landscape. The sound of footsteps echoing from the apartment above, a television blaring through the wall, or late-night conversations drifting through the corridor can transform one's sanctuary into a cacophony. Unlike a detached house where one can retreat into silence, apartment dwellers are often at the mercy of their neighbors' habits. In a building where dozens, sometimes hundreds of individuals coexist, complete seclusion is rare. From casual encounters in elevators to surveillance cameras in hallways, the very architecture of apartment living implies a degree of involuntary exposure. Apartment complexes often impose a labyrinth of rules intended to preserve harmony. Residents may be restricted from keeping pets, playing music beyond a certain hour, or even painting their walls in non-standard colors. While these regulations aim to safeguard collective well-being, they can also feel stifling, particularly for those who cherish autonomy. Although apartments may initially appear more affordable than houses, hidden costs abound. Maintenance fees, service charges, parking fees, and contributions to communal repairs can collectively exert a heavy financial burden. In luxury complexes, these fees may rival or even exceed mortgage payments. Plus, renting an apartment offers limited long-term equity. Unlike homeowners who gradually build wealth through property ownership, long-term tenants essentially funnel money into landlords' pockets without securing tangible assets in return. Perhaps the most underestimated disadvantage of apartment living is its impact on mental health. Humans, after all, have evolved over millennia to thrive in open spaces. Confined quarters, artificial lighting, and a lack of direct connection with nature can precipitate feelings of suffocation or alienation. Studies in environmental psychology suggest that residents of high-density housing are more susceptible to stress, anxiety, and even depression. The constant proximity to others, while socially enriching in some respects, may paradoxically lead to a diminished sense of individuality. When one weighs these disadvantages against the earlier advantages, it becomes clear that apartment living is neither a utopia nor a dystopia. Rather, it is a balancing act and negotiation between convenience and compromise, freedom and regulation, community and privacy. In our next segment, we will expand the lens further, examining how apartment living interacts with culture, environment, and urban planning, because ultimately this lifestyle cannot be understood in isolation. When we contemplate apartment living, it is tempting to assume that the experience is uniform, shaped purely by architecture and economics. Yet, the truth is far richer and more nuanced. How individuals perceive and inhabit apartments varies enormously across cultures, regions, and historical periods. In many European cities, apartments are not merely pragmatic shelters but artifacts of cultural heritage. Residents in these places often live in centuries-old buildings adorned with wrought iron balconies, intricate facades, and high ceilings. This architecture itself confers prestige. Contrast this with megacities in Asia, where apartment living is primarily defined by density. Land scarcity and soaring populations necessitate vertical expansion. Here, apartments are compact, meticulously designed to maximize efficiency and often equipped with futuristic technology. In the United States, apartment living occupies a peculiar cultural space. Traditionally, the American dream has been associated with homeownership, a detached house with a yard, a garage, and the proverbial white picket fence. Consequently, apartments have often been viewed as transitional spaces, places for students, young professionals. However, this perception is gradually shifting. Skyrocketing housing prices in cities like New York, San Francisco, and Los Angeles have made homeownership unattainable for many. As a result, apartment living is increasingly becoming a permanent lifestyle rather than a temporary compromise. By situating apartment living within this global and cultural framework, we see that it is far more than a simple matter of architecture. It is deeply embedded in history, economy, and social psychology. That's all for today. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe.